Our title today is the caps lock and the period. Of course, when we say caps lock, we mean using the capitals. Let's take a quick look beginning on, let me make this bigger. When do we use capital letters? Of course, we have a lot of situations. I'm sure from writing and reading, you have noticed a lot of these. We'll start with some examples. The most common time that we start with a capital letter. First entry we have here. The beginning of a sentence always has to be in capital letter, as you see here in the example. He left a message on my desk. He. The first letter is a capitalized letter, a capital H. So when you're writing, the first sentence will always start in a capital letter. That's how you know that you actually began your written or your writing material. Number two is something that a lot of students I notice make mistakes in, which is the pronoun I. Because they tend to wait or tend to look and see if it's at the beginning of the sentence, they write it capital. Well, the pronoun I, no matter where it is in the sentence, it should be capitalized. As you can see here, the pronoun I. This is where I grew up. As you can see, I is not at the beginning of the sentence. It's right in the middle, and it's still capitalized. So that's a capital I. This is where I grew up. As long as it's the pronoun I, this is you're talking about yourself, then it has to be in capitalized. It has to be capitalized or in capital letter. What we see a lot of is, of course, the proper noun. Sometimes it's difficult to notice it, but by reading and getting more information about certain proper nouns, you will know then and there that it's a proper noun. But by looking at the examples, you can actually work on that. Names, for examples, names of people are all proper nouns. Khalid, Hamad, Nada, Noura, whatever the name is, it's a proper noun. So it's always going to be capitalized no matter where it is in the sentence. A proper noun has to start with a capital letter. It was just a coincidence that in this sentence, Khalid wants to play soccer with us, that Khalid came at the beginning of the sentence. So here it's capitalized for two reasons. It's at the beginning of the sentence and it's a proper noun. But even if Khalid came in the middle of the sentence or at the end, it will still be capitalized because it's a proper noun. It's the name of a person. Also, proper noun, name of a university. I graduated from the University of New York. As you can see, as is mentioned before, what do we actually capitalize in this case? We capitalize the first letter with a proper noun. So university and New York. Here, we have I, the pronoun at the beginning of the sentence. It's capitalized. University of New York. Of course, University of New York, because it's a proper noun, we capitalize the first letters of the word university and New York. But we can also notice, or we should also notice that even if the word university and of was not here, we would have had New York. New York is still a proper noun. It's the name of the city or the state. So it will still be capitalized, the first letter in New and the first letter in York, New York. So because we were talking about a proper noun, which is the University of New York, that is why we have here the first capital letters of the first beginning of the words. The third one is just an example of a brand, which is Coca-Cola. So we have a proper noun. It's a well-known brand, whether it's Pepsi, Coca-Cola, or any other brand that you know, whether it's food or drink. It has to be capitalized because it's a proper noun. It's a well-known brand and it's a proper noun. So if anyone says Coca-Cola, and no matter what language, you will still know what it is because it's a well-known brand and it's a proper noun. So that's why we capitalize the C in the beginning of both parts of the word, Coca and Cola, because it's a proper noun, a specific name of something that is well known. Of course, you thought we were finished. No, we have more caps. Some examples you can see here in different situations. And we'll talk about one certain point here that is not mentioned, but we might talk about it in the exercise later. We have the first letter of months, days, and holidays. So if it's one of the 12 months from January to December, the first letter has to be capitalized, no matter where it is in the sentence. As you see in the example, today is June 4, 2011. The month June, the sixth month, the J is first letter is capitalized because it's one of the 12 months of the year, June. Of course, and today was capitalized because it's the beginning of the sentence. Number two, Susie's birthday is this Monday. So we have two capitalized letters here. We have Susie, the first letter, which is the S, because it's the name of a person, a proper noun, and because it came at the beginning of the sentence. So that's why Susie starts with a capital letter. We said months, days, and holidays. So also the days of the week, from Saturday to Sunday. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. They are always capitalized no matter where they are in the sentence. So Monday, as you can see, a capital M, because it's a day of the week. Holidays. Last sentence or example. The shops are closed on Eid. So Eid here is the holiday. It's just one of many. As you know, in the Western culture, they have many holidays, whether you're talking about Christmas, Easter, Halloween, Thanksgiving. These are all well-known holidays, and they will always be capitalized. So you have to start them with a capital letter. So whether you changed Eid here to Halloween, Christmas, or Thanksgiving, or any other example of a holiday, it will still start with a capital letter. The shops are closed on Eid. The next example, I know that it has a bit of a number of branches, but we will start with nationalities, religion, race of people, and languages. So we have some examples, like the first one here. As you notice, the nationality in number one has came here connected to the food itself. So when we say we often eat Italian food, we're not talking about a person, we're actually talking about the food. But because the food is originally from this country, from Italy, it has taken that nationality. So we often eat Italian food because of the name of the country would also be capital, also the nationality. So the food here, what country is it from? It is originally from Italy. So we call it Italian food. So that's why the nationality of the food here is Italian. So because it's a nationality, the first letter in Italian would be capitalized. No matter what kind of food it is, Chinese food, English food, Turkish food, whatever it is, whatever kind of restaurant you're at, the nationality of the food will be capitalized here, Italian food. Languages, no matter what the language is, no matter it comes at the beginning of the sentence, the middle, or the end, it will always be capitalized. I want to master many languages, such as Spanish, Korean, Chinese, and Russian. As you can see, 4 different languages from across the globe, all at the end of the sentence, all capitalized because they are languages. Related to religion, there is a Muslim community in my town. As you can see, because we mentioned the religion, Islam here when we said Muslim community, their identity is Muslim. So M here will be capitalized and in relation to religion. For the nationality, we'll go back with some examples later with some of the exercises, but I think it will be clearer then. And yet, of course, there is one more slide for capitalization. There are many situations where you have to capitalize, but don't worry, by getting used to them, it will be easy to notice them later on. The first letter in a person's title. For example, like when we say, this is Dr. Smith. This is Dr. Smith. There's a dot after, or there's, it starts with a capital D, doctor, then the name of the Dr. Smith. I got it from Mr. Tom. Mr., as you can see here, starts with an M, with a capital M. Same will go if it's Mrs. MRS, Mrs. It will start with the capital M. We can talk later on when we talk about the questions and answers about there's some differences between Mr., Mrs., and Miss, and we're gonna elaborate later when we're done with the slides. After the person's title, we said Dr., Mr., Mrs. We have geographic areas. So like cities, states, different states in the US and America or any different country, the name of the countries, well-known mountains, oceans, and rivers. All of these start with a capital letter. Example of city and country in one sentence. My destination is Paris, France. Paris being the city, France being the country. As you can see, capital P for Paris, the city, capital F for France, the country. Hawaii is in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. As you can see here, Hawaii, it's capitalized for more than one reason. It's at the beginning of the sentence, and it's the name of a state. Hawaii is an American state. One of the states of the US is called Hawaii. And where is it located? It is in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. So because we also mentioned not any ocean, we specified the Pacific Ocean. As you can see, because it's the name of an ocean, it has been capitalized also. Capital P, capital O. This one, it's a big possibility that you have run through them with in some of your other courses, maybe talking about the 14th century or something related to literature. Historical periods. The Renaissance began in the 14th century. I'm sure most of you have heard of the Renaissance. If I elaborate, it will take a lot of our time. So I can just, in short, some of them, a lot believe that it is the beginning of the modern age. But I'm sure through your studies with literature, you've been through that a lot. So the Renaissance began in the 14th century. Because it's a historical period, it was capitalized with a capital R. Another historical period is what we call a dynasty. The sentence here says the Qing dynasty, that's how it's pronounced. It's the name of a Chinese dynasty. The Qing dynasty is the last dynasty in China. Dynasty is a time where certain family has ruled over a country or control a country for a certain amount of time. Sometimes they actually inherit it generation by generation. So that amount of time that they stay in ruling or in charge of the country, it's called a dynasty. So here it's the Qing dynasty, which is the last dynasty, which is in China. So because it's a historical period, like we mentioned, what we have done is that we capitalized the Q in the word Qing and the D in dynasty. Finally, I'll caps rest with our last example, or our last case here. The first letter of each major word in the title of a book, a movie, an article. As you see, it's not fully capitalized. We capitalize the first letter of each major word in the title. You don't capitalize the whole title, just the beginning of the major words. I found this article, which was called How to Write a Good Cover Letter, in this magazine. So as you noticed, they did not capitalize everything, only the major words. How, write, good cover letter. the first letter of the major words, that is what we only capitalize in this situation. As for the questions, I was told that we can ask questions and answers in the chat. Let me see if we can do that. I can't share on that, so no problem. I'll go back to sharing. We lost it. Okay. We can talk about the questions here, then we will go back to chat and see about the answers. We talked about capitalizations. If we can take a quick look at the sentences here. We have 5 different sentences. Number 1, I was born in Shanghai, China, but grew up in the United States. Number 2, Mrs. Ohana gave me the Bible. Number 3, if you walk 2 more blocks, you will be able to see Mount Rocky. Number 4, my family will have a summer vacation in Hawaii. Number 5, I didn't want to cook tonight, so I just ordered Thai food for dinner. I'm going to give you a moment, maybe a minute or two. What we talked about now in capitalization. See what you can remember and what we can apply here, because all of the sentences need some fixing, or the capitalization needs to be fixed. We'll start from 1 and go down to 5, but I'll give you a couple of minutes. Take a look. If you have a paper and pen, that would have been making it easier, but it's up to you. See what has to be capitalized here. And in a minute, we will go through them again and we will answer them and see if you actually got all of them right or there was something missing. So take a couple of minutes, look at the sentences, see what you can get that was not capitalized. Okay, let's start with the first one. Let's start with the first one. I was born in Shanghai, China, but grew up in the United States. Of course, we will start with the beginning of the sentence. Always has to start with a capital letter, I. So this is our first capitalized mistake. I, capital, was born in Shanghai, China. We talked about cities and countries, like when we said Paris, France. The same goes here. Shanghai, China. Shanghai being the city, China being the country. So capital S for Shanghai, capital C for China. But grew up in the United States. Also a name of the country. So United States. Capital U for United, capital S for States. Number 2, Mrs. Ohana gave me the Bible. Of course, beginning of the sentence and the title, Mrs. So capital M for Mrs. Mrs. for female, Mr. for male. So Mrs. Ohana gave me the Bible. Ohana is the name of the lady, so or the female. So O would be capital. Mrs. Ohana gave me the Bible. Of course, when we talked about also religious factors that are capitalized, B here for Bible. So same for us as Muslims when we say Quran, we will also capitalize the Q on Quran. If you walk 2 more blocks, you will be able to see Mount Rocky. The I in F, beginning of the sentence, has to be capitalized. You will be able to see Mount Rocky. Mount, short for mountain. So capital M for the title. Mount Rocky. So it's a well-known mountain, which is mountain. It's called Mount Rocky. So capital R for Rocky because it's the name of the mountain. Mount Rocky. 4, my family will have a summer vacation in Hawaii. Of course, beginning of the sentence as usual, M has to be capital. Family will have a summer vacation in Hawaii. A big mistake that goes around in writing for students is they tend to capitalize the 4 seasons of the year: winter, spring, summer, and fall. Well, unfortunately, the 4 seasons do not compel to the rule. So you do not capitalize any of the 4 seasons when they are written. Winter, spring, summer, and fall, or autumn, you do not capitalize them. So here, summer is correct. It will stay as a small letter for the S. We do not capitalize it. Summer vacation in Hawaii, but Hawaii, as we mentioned, because it's the name of an American state, proper noun, it shall be capitalized. So capital H here for Hawaii. Number 5, sorry. I didn't want to cook tonight, so I just ordered Thai food for dinner. I, as you see at the beginning, it's already capitalized. I didn't. So I just ordered Thai food for dinner. As we saw before in one of the examples when we said Italian food, the nationality of the food is from Italy. Here, it's the same situation. The difference is they wrote Thai food. Thai food is also related to a country. Thai is short here for Thailand. So this food is originally from Thailand. So nationality of the food. That's why Thai food here, the T will be capitalized. Just like we said in the first example when we said Italian food, here it is Thai food. Food that's originally from Thailand, the country. So as being the nationality for the food, we will capitalize the T here for Thai food. We did not forget, we mentioned the caps lock situations. When do we capitalize the words? We are also going to mention some examples about the period. our friend the dot that, or how in British English they say full stop maybe. So what happens is a lot of students tend when they're writing a sentence, unusually enough, they forget to put the period at the end. When you write a sentence that ends with the statement and you just finish your statement, you have to put the dot, the period, the full stop to show that the sentence is done. You can that you want to start a new sentence. So quickly, just example. So quickly, just examples of the period itself. We have 1, 2, and 3. Some of the rules mentioned. We won't go into various details because we have to talk about what we spoke about later on. So we'll begin with one of them. When to use the period. What is well known to all of us is we use it at the end of a complete sentence. That is a statement. So you make your statement in the sentence. At the end of the sentence, you already made your statement and you're done. You put the period or the dot to end the sentence. I know him well. Full stop, period, dot. Idea statement is done. Number 2, if the last item in the sentence is an abbreviation that ends in a period, do not follow it with another period. Abbreviation, I'm sure you've heard of it before, is when we have capital letters that end or that represent a long word. It is shortened into capital letters. That's called an abbreviation. So as the example here shows you what's incorrect and what's correct. This is Alice Smith, MD. So MD is short for medical doctor. So this person is a doctor. This is Alice Smith, a doctor of medicine. So as you can see, 1 dot after the M and 2 dots after the D is incorrect. You only put 1 dot, 1 period for during the abbreviation. This is Alice Smith, as you can see in number 2. Please shop, cook, etc. We will do the laundry. Also, as you can see after etc., he put a dot to end the sentence or the period, and after laundry. One situation when you don't put the period or the dot or the full stop, as we said, is when the sentence needs a question mark or an exclamation point. That eliminates the period because the question mark or the exclamation point will replace it. If it's a question, you will put a question mark to show that it is a question. It's not a closed statement. You do not put a period or a dot. You just put a question mark. If the sentence needs an exclamation, you will put an exclamation mark or point to show that, and you will not put a dot or a period because you're not ending. You're not trying to end the statement. You're actually trying to show either an exclamation or a question. So that is the status, or that's what happens when you want to replace the period, or where the situation where you don't need a period or a dot is when you actually have a question or an exclamation sentence. You will actually add the question mark or the exclamation point to replace the period itself. One second here. Let me stop sharing and go to chat. Sorry about the chat. I couldn't open it while I was showing my screen, but some of you actually answered. I told you that I would also mention something about when we said about Mrs. and Ohana and Mr. As we mentioned before, Mr. and Mrs. like here, we have Mr. We have we have Mr. and we have Mrs. We have Miss. All of these, as you can see, sorry, the first one should not have a dot at the beginning. We capitalized all three as a title, Mr., Mrs., and Miss. But do you guys know the difference between Mr.? Of course, Mr. and Mrs. Is known, male and female. But what about the difference between Mrs. and Miss? Do you know the difference between the two? When do we call a female Mrs. or a lady Mrs. or Miss? Mrs., when we know that she is actually married, we say Mrs. When we know that she's single, we say Miss. Correct. Mrs. is for married. Also, there is a situation where someone would like to be very polite and you're not sure if she is married or not, you will actually say Ms. with a Z sound. Ms. And when she hears you, she knows and she will correct you. She will say Mrs. or Miss. It's a way of being polite to show that I'm not sure and I don't want to make a mistake if you're married or not. So I just say, like, for example, Miss Smith or Ms. Smith. When she hears you, she will correct you. Either she will say, or she will just continue talking, or she'll correct or say Mrs. or Miss. Miss means yes. If she says Miss, that means she's not married. That actually shows her marital status, as you have mentioned. Yes, correct. For the cases we mentioned about capitalization, are there any questions? Were any of them not clear? We spoke about proper nouns. I know that proper nouns, they have a lot of situations. You have to know if it's a name of a person, it always has to be capitalized. If it's a name of a well-known brand, it's a proper noun. As we mentioned, Coca-Cola, Nescafe, Starbucks, any well-known brand that is a proper noun will be capitalized. Languages in general, beginning of the sentence, we all know that. The name of the countries, cities. The only situation we mentioned was the Four Seasons. The Four Seasons don't start with a capital letter. Days of the week, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, yes. Months, name of the months, January, February, March, April, yes. Known occasions, as we mentioned, Eid, Christmas, Halloween, Thanksgiving, Easter, they are all capitalized as a well-known occasion, but the Four Seasons are not. They're not included in the rule. So summer, winter, spring, summer, or fall, fall, or summer, or it's also called autumn, not included. So these should be like this, fall and autumn, because they're not included in the rule. Others, I think, are mostly clear. Maybe sometimes the name of the nationality might not be clear, especially if it's connected to food, not a person, as you mentioned. Chinese food. Am I muted? Chinese food, Thai food, as we mentioned, we mean Thailand, Turkish food. As long as it's related to food and showing the nationality of the food, it should be capitalized. As for the many situations that were mentioned, I can put them back on now for a second and see if you guys. Just a quick recap. First letter of the sentence, the pronoun I. First letter of the proper noun, names, well-known brands, universities, etc. First letter of months, days, and holidays, as we said. June, Monday, 8. Nationalities, religion, languages, Italian, Chinese, Russian, as in being the language, Muslim related to religion. First letter in a person's title, Dr., Mr. Geographic sites, cities, states, countries, and mountains and oceans, they'll all be Paris, France, Pacific Ocean capitalized. Historical periods, as we mentioned, the Renaissance, the Qing dynasty capitalized. And last but
Doctor,
yes.
would you like to go back to the previous slide? Qing dynasty.
Okay. Yes. Here you go.
Why we haven't capitalized the second dynasty?
Okay, why? Because dynasty here is just the common word that means Fatrat Hukum or the ruling time. When we connected it to Qing, it became we specified a certain dynasty. That's why it is capitalized. Is that clear, or should I elaborate?
No, it's clear. Thank you.
The first dynasty, it is connected to Qing, so we're talking about a specific dynasty, the last rulers of China. But the second dynasty is just a general word meaning
word. Yeah.
normal word in the sentence. Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I think the last one was this one. Yes. The first letter of each major word in the title of a book, movie, or article, any movie, the name, of course, name of the book, name of the article. Just remember that we don't capitalize the whole title. Just the first letter of each major word. How, write, go, cover letter. Only the first letter of the main words only, not the full title. This is the question here that we were asking about. It will be difficult, honestly, to go back and forth to the chat. So if you have any question here about these, it's okay. Just open the mic and ask. If you have any questions about, because I think we have like a couple of minutes left. Do you have any questions about the sentence correction here? Were they all clear? Did anyone miss anything? I think we mentioned everything, beginning of the sentence, name of the countries, name of the cities, related to religious topics like the Bible, countries, states like Hawaii. Summer, we mentioned that summer is not included in the rule because it's one of the 4 seasons. Thai food, nationality of the food is always capitalized. Thai here, in case you don't know, it's from Thailand, as we mentioned. I think we went through most of these questions, or it is clear. If you have any questions about the use of capitalized letters or the sentences we put here, please ask. I think we went through most of them, and we spoke about when we used the period. But mostly, I think most of the info was here about when to use the capitalized letter, because I know there's not 1 or 2 or 3 situations. There's a lot of situations where you have to use capital letters. And I know it's sometimes difficult, but by getting used to it and reading and writing, you will be able to remember these especially if you put them in small points like this. It will be easy to remember once you read them more than once, that they will just stick. These are the situations where you have to use capitalized letters, and it's very important, of course, and you're right. It's part of punctuation that you know how to use the period and know how to use capitalized letters. So, okay, if we have no more questions now, we will go back to the main screen here. See if we have the chat. Here. بالنسبة اللي في الشات اللي students who are asking the meaning of dynasty, نعم, in Arabic هي فترة حكم. نعم, that is correct. When they mentioned that dynasty, the Qing dynasty was the last dynasty in China, that means they were the last family to rule over China in the last years. فهي فترة حكم من الزمن تكون